Once upon a time in a kingdom far, far away, nestled between rolling hills and sparkling rivers, there lived a little girl named Ella. Now, Ella wasn't your ordinary girl. Oh no, not her. She had a heart full of wonder and a head full of dreams. You could often find her sitting by the window, gazing at the clouds and letting her imagination run wild. One quiet afternoon, Ella sat under her favorite tree in the garden, staring up at the sky. The tree was old and wise, its branches forming a natural roof over her head, sheltering her from the sun's warm rays. As she lay there, a gentle breeze whispered through the leaves, carrying with it the sweet scent of blooming honeysuckle. The world was still, the birds had stopped their cheerful songs for an afternoon rest, and the only sound that could be heard was the soft rustling of the leaves overhead. And then it happened. A fluffy white cloud, larger than any Ella had ever seen before, drifted lazily past the sun, momentarily casting the world in an ethereal glow. The cloud seemed to pause in the sky, taking on the shape of a curious face complete with two sparkling eyes and a wide, welcoming smile. Slowly, the cloud began to descend, floating lower and lower until it hovered just above Ella, its smiling face inches away from hers. Startled but unafraid, Ella sat up and found herself face to snout with a giggling cloud. "Well, hello there," boomed the cloud in a voice like rumbling thunder. "What's your name, little one?" "Ella," she stammered, still a bit nervous at first, but then a smile spread across her face. It was clear that this was no ordinary cloud. The cloud puffed itself up proudly. "Ah, yes, I know who you are, Ella. You're the girl who spends all day looking up at me and my brothers, aren't you? I've been watching you." Ella blushed, suddenly feeling shy. I didn't know you could hear me," she mumbled, looking down at her hands. The cloud chuckled, a sound like distant bells. "Of course I can hear you, silly. Why, every day I listen to you and your friends playing in the fields, talking about magical lands and wonderful adventures. And I must say, you have quite the imagination. Do you?" Ella asked, looking up at the cloud with hopeful eyes. "Indeed," replied the cloud. "Why, just yesterday I heard you talking about a land made entirely of candy, a place where rivers flowed with chocolate and lollipops grew on trees." "Did you really mean it?" Ella's eyes widened. Could her daydreams actually come true? I did," she whispered, a longing expression on her face. The cloud drifted closer, its eyes twinkling with mischief. "Well, then close your eyes, Ella, and make a wish. I'll take you there." Ella couldn't believe her ears. Was this really happening? Was her daydream becoming a reality? Without even thinking twice, she nodded eagerly. "Really, you'll take me there, but how?" The cloud simply smiled, a knowing look in its eyes. "Just close your eyes and wish for it, my dear." Taking a deep breath, Ella closed her eyes tight and wished with all her might. "I want to go to the land of candy," she whispered, picturing rivers of chocolate and mountains of sweets. And in that moment, something magical happened. The cloud enveloped her in a warm, fuzzy feeling, and everything went black. When Ella opened her eyes again, she found herself lying on something soft and squishy. Startled, she sat up and looked around, and what she saw made her gasp in amazement. Gone were the familiar sights of her garden. Instead, she was in a world unlike any she had ever seen before. All around her stretched a magnificent land made entirely of sweets. Rivers of flowing chocolate meandered through fields of lollipops that grew in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Mountains of candy canes stood tall in the distance, and gumdrop flowers bloomed in every shade imaginable. Ella couldn't believe her eyes. It was like stepping into one of her own daydreams. Suddenly, a giggle echoed nearby, and Ella turned to see a small creature hopping towards her. It had the body of a bunny, but instead of fur, it was covered in brightly colored jelly beans that jiggled with every hop. Overjoyed, Ella reached out to pet the creature and it nuzzled her hand, its whiskers tickling her palm. "Oh, hello there," said the Jelly Bean Bunny, its voice as sweet as honey. "Welcome to the land of candy. I'm here to show you around." And so began Ella's incredible adventure in the land of candy. The Jelly Bean Bunny, whose name was Jester, led her on a tour of this wondrous realm. They slid down marshmallow slides taller than trees and sailed down chocolate rivers on candy cane boats. Ella marveled at the lollipop forests, where trees with swirling sticks provided shade for tiny candy creatures. She even made friends with a lollipop lion whose mane was made of spun sugar and whose roar sounded like a popping candy explosion. All around her, Ella saw magical sights: gingerbread houses with gumdrop roofs, licorice bridges that arched over streams of butterscotch, flowers that bloomed in swirls of cotton candy, and bushes laden with sweet treats. She felt as if she had stepped into one of her own daydreams, a place where everything was made of candy and happiness was the only law. As the day wore on, Ella and her new friends frolicked and laughed, making unforgettable memories in the land of candy. But as the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the candy landscape, a hint of sadness touched Ella's heart. She knew it was time to go home. Nudging her gently, the lollipop lion reminded her, "You promised us you'd bring back stories of our wonderful land to the human world. Don't forget." Ella smiled, hugging her new friends goodbye. "I promise," she whispered, her voice filled with warmth. "I'll never forget you." Turning to the familiar sight of the cloud, now hovering patiently nearby, Ella climbed aboard. And with a final wave to her friends, she closed her eyes, ready to return home. As the cloud carried her away, Ella couldn't help but smile. Her daydream had come true. She had visited the magical land of candy and made friends she would never forget. Back in her own room, tucked safely in her bed, Ella recounted her amazing adventure to her parents, who listened with wide eyes and loving smiles. Though they couldn't see the land of candy, they could see the sparkle in their daughter's eyes and the joy that radiated from her heart. From that day on, Ella's room became a shrine to her adventure. She kept the smooth, colorful pebbles that lined the path to the candy river, the sweet-smelling gumdrop petals she picked in the lollipop forest, and the pictures she drew of her friends the lollipop lion and the Jelly Bean Bunny. Whenever she felt a bit down or a bit lonely, all she had to do was look at her treasures and remember the day she ventured to the land of candy and made a wish upon a cloud. And as for the cloud, well, it continued to drift lazily across the sky, always keeping an ear out for the laughter of children and a watchful eye on Ella, waiting for the day she would call upon its magic once more. For in the world where dreams and reality meet, anything is possible, even a day trip to the land of candy. And so, dear listener, I invite you, too, to believe in the magic of daydreams, the power of friendship, and the boundless wonder that awaits us all if we only dare to close our eyes and make a wish. Will you join Ella in the land of candy today?